The day when everything changed for me, it was a beautiful, sunny summer day, and I got a phone call, and it was from a hospital that had my daughter, and they wanted permission for emergency surgery and said that she'd been involved in a car accident. And I said, "Where's her dad?" And they said, "Oh, she was alone in the vehicle." I said, "No, her dad was with her, and so were her brothers. Where are they?" People sometimes ask me, so what have I learned from what I've been through? And as I said, first of all, I wouldn't wish what I've been through on my worst enemy. It was awful. I had this wonderful life, and in the flash of a second, it was gone. It was completely gone. But what I have learned is to ask questions. Now when I communicate with spirits, I ask questions. And I have learned so much. Oh my gosh. I understand things so much better. And I don't know it all. I'm a long ways from knowing it all. And I don't think you ever will know it all, because I don't think we're meant to. So it all kind of began at about the age of 3, when I had an imaginary friend who I called Pauline. Well, one day my grandmother was out, and she had an album, and in the album was a photograph of my dad's little sister who had died in the house where I was born and raised. And Mom said I was really small. She said you had to use your hands to pull yourself up and look over the table. And I said, "Hey, that's Pauline. She's my friend." And my grandmother said, "Oh, Irene, it's so nice that you've told Debbie about Pauline." And my mom kind of went, And my grandma said, "Oh, Debbie, you look just like her." I said, hers got long dark hair. And she did. She had dark hair, and I had curly, short, blonde hair. And so my mom called up my aunt and said, "Oh my God, Deb's got it," which in our family was code for that's something strange that some of us have when we know that somebody's calling or who's at the door before they come. And my aunt said, "Oh man, Irene, let's just let it develop. Let's see what she does with it." And so I was let to say and do whatever I wanted to in the home. Just we didn't talk about it outside the home. And that was a hard lesson for a little girl to learn, especially going to school. And there was times when I got in trouble at school because a teacher would ask something and I'd say, "Well, that spirit did it." And then I would get in trouble for lying or for making up stories. And there was times that I was bullied and treated not so well because I was kind of a strange little kid. And there was times when I liked being alone better than being with people. At about the age of 17, I met what would become my future husband. And I had dated someone else before, but when I went to date him, our first date, when he kissed me, it actually threw sparks and it lit up the front cab of this pickup. And I backed off and said, "Oh my God, I know you. We've been together before. We're going to get married in this life too." And he said, And so years later, about 3 years later, we did get married. And he would say, "Living with you is quite the adventure because I never know what's going to happen." Because I would tell him things that then would come true. Or I would wake him in the middle of the night and say, "My grandpa's here and he says we're going to have a baby girl." And then that is what I had. Now, in those days, we didn't know ahead of time what we would have. He'd say, "If I would have known." And I said, I warned you, our first date, our first kiss." And he says, "What? You mean the light in the pickup?" Now that part he remembered, the light in the pickup. I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I don't remember you saying anything." He said, "Deb, I was 17. All I could think of was, man, if we're getting sparks over kissing, what's coming next?" He said, "I was 17. What did you expect?" So I really, truly did meet and marry my soulmate. And we ended up eventually having 3 children and lots of adventures with the kids. We had 2 kids, and then 9 years later had the third one. So I had a bit of a gap there. And then things were going really well. I had quit working the job that I'd been working. I'd been a hairdresser. And I quit working that job to work full-time with my husband in a carpentry business. And things were going really good. And then I started having these dreams. Now, the hard thing to explain, and I think this is true for a lot of psychics, is we see things about other people. We don't see things so much about ourselves. And I've come to believe that that's God's way of protecting me, of saying, okay, you've got this gift, or like I said, this curse is what I would call it many a time. You've got this, but you can't use it for yourself. You are to use it for other people. But I started having these dreams, and they were all about my youngest child. And I would see him, and he was hurt really badly. And he was laying in a hospital bed, and his leg was up. There was metal through his leg. His head was all bandaged. And I would wake up quite upset. And my husband would say, "What are you seeing? What are you seeing?" And I said, I see Cody, and he's hurt really, really bad. And Dan finally one night, after 3 nights of hardly getting any sleep, said, "What does he look like?" I said, he looks like he does right now. I'd just given him a fresh haircut. He looks like he does right now. So my husband, in his infinite wisdom, went out the next morning and took over half the springs out of the trampoline, thinking that, okay, the kid jumped on the trampoline, broke his leg, that's what I'm seeing. That's how much he would follow my intuition and my dreams and my feelings and things. And actually, that dream quit. I didn't have that dream anymore. And went for about, maybe almost a week, and I started having what I called my black dream. Now, this is a dream that I've never had before, and I've never had a dream like it since. But I saw myself in this long hallway, and there was doors on either side of the hallway, all the way down. And at the very end was this black cloud, and it was like rolling at me, and it was like growling, and there was almost faces in it, and it was super, super scary. And it was coming towards me, and I see myself falling down on my knees and saying, "Oh my God, wake me up, wake me up. This is a nightmare. This can't be happening. Just somebody wake me up, wake me up." And my husband would wake me up, and I would be crying, and he'd say, "What do you see?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "Dan, it's different than anything I've ever seen in my life." I said, "It's this black thing coming to me, and I feel like I want to throw up, and I see myself falling to the ground, and I'm crying, and I'm sobbing, and it's like it's so horrible. I can't see what it is." I said, "I don't know. I don't understand it." And I had this dream for probably about 6, 7 nights in a row. And that next day, it was a beautiful summer day, just a regular kind of summer day. And I was actually working for my sister. My sister had a hair salon, and she had come down with thyroid cancer and was having to have treatments. And so I still had my cosmetology license, so I had taken her place at her salon to take care of the salon while she was having treatments. And suddenly I got a phone call, and it was from a hospital in Council Bluffs, calling to ask for permission to do surgery on my daughter, who was 17 at the time. And I said, "Where's her dad?" And they said, "Well, she was alone in the vehicle. She was in a car wreck." I said, "No, where's her dad and her brothers?" "No, she was alone." I said, "No, she wasn't." Now, this was pre-cell phone days, so it wasn't like you could just start making calls, and figure things out. And I remember I went out, and I went to get in my car, and my hand was shaking so bad, I dropped my keys, and I thought, there's no way you can drive. Council Bluffs is about an hour from me, and there's no way. So it's funny how your brain works in a certain way, but all I could think of was, who's the fastest driver that I know? And I went across the street to where my sister-in-law worked. She's the fastest driver I know, and she had kind of like a sports car with bucket seats. And I said to her, "Dan and the kids have been in an accident. I need you to drive me to the city." And we took off, and I kind of tricked her. I made her go the road that I knew he and the kids had went. They were headed to Council Bluffs to go visit his dad, who happened to be in the hospital. So I knew what direction they had went and everything. And of course, we came upon where the accident was. They stopped us like half a mile or so before where the accident was, and wouldn't let us go through. You couldn't see the accident. And my sister-in-law was talking with the guy that was stopping traffic. And like I said, she had this car with bucket seats, this little sports car. And all of a sudden, my husband appeared there between the seats, and he took my hair and brushed it back behind my ear, which was a love token that he always did to me. And he said, "Babe, I'm gone. You need to go find the kids. Go take care of the kids." And that was how I knew that my husband had been killed. And I turned to my sister-in-law and I said, "Dan was just here. He's gone. We need to go find the kids." And she said, "Deb, you don't know that." And I said, "Yeah, I do." And she took one look at me. And of course, when you've got a sister-in-law like me, you learn that there's weird stuff that goes on all the time. So she said, "Okay." And we went through country roads then to get to town. And when I got to where my daughter was, they still didn't know where my husband was. They still didn't know where my kids were, where my other boys were. And then about, a half an hour or so after I was there, they said, "Well, your husband's across the street at Jenny Ed. Would you like to go over there?" Because by then they'd gotten my daughter stabilized. And I said, "No, he's not there. He's deceased." And I'll never forget the nurse looking at me like, "You are crazy, woman." And I said, "No, he's gone." He said, "I need to find my boys. I don't know where my boys are." And then eventually word came that both boys had been life flighted into Omaha to a different hospital. And I wanted to go there. And they said, "Well, you can't leave." I said, "What do you mean I can't leave?" Well, they were waiting for a priest and for the highway patrolman to come and tell me that my husband was deceased. And it was like, I already know this. And I'm sure they thought I was the craziest person they'd ever worked with through a tragedy like that, because I suppose to them it felt like I was one step ahead of them, because I was like, my daughter's stable, I need to go, my boys are not stable, I know that. And then word came that neither one of my boys was breathing on their own and that they'd been life flighted, and I was right. And eventually the highway patrolman and the priest came, and then they let me go. And I got to the hospital where my boys were, and the one was already, he was in surgery, and the other one, they were getting ready to take him in surgery. And they let me actually lay on the gurney with him and hold him and go into the surgery room. And this was my 6-year-old son. And they took me out of the surgery room out a different way than the way that they had rolled the gurney into the surgery room. And they brought me out, and it was that damn hallway. And I was just like, oh my God. Here, my husband took the hooks out of the trampoline thinking maybe we prevented something, but we didn't. And then I had this black dream, and here it was. And I did. I just fell to my knees, and it was like, this is a nightmare. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. This is a freaking nightmare. We'd been married 20 years. Things were going really good. Our kids were healthy. Our kids were happy. We were happy. It was such a nightmare. Before my husband was killed, when spirits would appear to me and they would ask me to go talk to someone or tell someone something, I would. Okay, I'll do it, but I didn't go out of my way, I would say, to do these things. But I realized a couple days into this, I'd seen my husband when the accident happened, and he told me he was gone. And then I got to where my boys were, and I was busy with them. They both had brain injuries. They were having surgeries, all of this. And a couple days into it, I realized I'm not seeing any spirits. And this was really, really weird for me. It was really quiet, for one thing, which I've never had my whole life. And hospitals for me are usually really, really cluttered and just full of spirits trying to get my attention. And if they see me look sideways or see them or acknowledge them, it's just like they come from all over. Hey. Tell them, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. What's going on? Hospitals are full of tragedies. They're heart attacks, their car accidents. A lot of times that soul has not prepared to cross over. If it's a terminal disease, a lot of times they are prepared. And a couple days into this, I realized I wasn't seeing any of that. In fact, it was really, really quiet. I thought it was so strange. And I wanted to talk to my husband. I wanted to say, first of all, what the hell happened? It was a beautiful sunny day. He was done with work for the day, was taking the kids to go visit his dad. So I tried talking to him, and it was absolutely silence. And I thought, okay, it's because I'm in this hospital and there's so much tragedy around. He must not be able to get through. I think the thing that's hard to understand today is, we can get on the internet and we can Google anything and find out anything. And in my life, there was no internet yet. Cell phones hadn't really started. We were just barely starting with bag phones at that time. And I really didn't have a mentor. I didn't have someone that I could ask questions, that I could say, okay, why do I not just see things, but I hear things and I feel things, and nobody else does? Why me? Or why do some little kids see things and adults don't? I just had so many questions. But I told myself, okay, when we get home, he will show up. I just knew it. And it was 6 weeks before I got all my kids out of the hospital and we got home. And that first night I had such high expectations. I was almost giddy. I was good. He'll be showing up anytime. Well, he didn't. And for a month, he didn't. And for 2 months, he didn't. And there were days when I would go out to the cemetery and just say, you know what, God, I'm done. I'm toast. Just strike me now. I've had it. You gave me this gift or this curse, however you want to put it, that I have had all my life that has made me feel like an outsider all of my life. I felt like nobody ever totally understood me until I found this person. And then you took him away, and now it's gone. And now when I want it, when I need it the most, and I want it, I've got nothing. I can't feel, I can't hear, I can't see. I've got nothing. What the hell? How is that fair? I was a very, very Christian person. I was a deaconess in my church. I was music director of my church. I was co-sponsor of the community vacation Bible school. We were a good Christian family. We were both volunteers in so many things and helped with so many things in the community. And it was just so not fair. And it was very hard not to get on the pity pot. Why did you do this to us? This is something that you would open the newspaper and read about and say, oh my God, those poor people. And now I can't even talk to him. Why am I being punished like this? And I'm into month 3 after the accident and still no answers. And I can honestly tell you, I was mad at everything. And even though I was very, very fortunate that all 3 of my kids did live, thank God, we had a lot of things to deal with. My youngest child had to learn to walk again. He had to learn a lot of his words again, his numbers, letters. He was only 6. It was really, really difficult. Plus I lost my income. Plus the accident was deemed to be my husband's fault. So there went insurance and everything else financially went to the other vehicle. So I didn't just start back at ground zero. I started back below it. And like I said, didn't have research. Couldn't just Google psychic abilities. Why don't I have them? What happened? So then one day my brother came to visit. He just lived a little ways away, and he said, Rianne wants to tell you something. Dan keeps showing up in her bedroom. Now, Rianne at the time was 16. She was also one of his many godchildren. And I said, what's he saying? What's he saying? And my brother said, she doesn't want to tell you because it's going to make you mad. Well, like I said, I was mad at the world. So, you're not going to make me any madder than I am. And I said, I need to talk to her. So I brought her up, And well, the first thing Uncle Dan is saying is to tell you that everything's going to be okay. Well, that just pissed me off even more. Oh yeah, it's easy for you to say. I'm sitting here with $400,000 in medical bills and kids that are broken up and no income, and I don't even, to tell me everything's going to be okay. Are you kidding me? And then the next thing was tell Aunt Debbie to quit being so mad. I just went from mad to furious. It was like, I haven't talked to you for 3 months. For 3 months, I've had no connection with you, and you tell me to quit being so mad? Try living what I'm living and not be so mad. And like I said before, this was, kind of pre-internet. I had no mentor. I had nobody to call to say, why do I not have my psychic abilities anymore? So the one day I packed up my 3 kids in their body cast and got them to school. And I went to Omaha and went to the main library there. And I think it took me 20 minutes before I had the courage to go up to the gal at the desk and ask her if she had any books on mediums or psychics. And oh my God, she didn't just have books. She had whole sections just full of it. And I started reading, and I was trying to figure out why I had lost my abilities. And I didn't find a lot, honestly. I really didn't. But I found one book from Sylvia Brown that said something about that grief lowers our vibration. And that kind of gave me something to go on. And so I really spent a lot of time thinking of that and trying to figure out, what does that mean? What does vibration have to do with it? And then I thought, okay, vibration. I know that the spirit world is a higher vibration. The human vibration is low and slow. Okay, so what does vibration have to do with grief? So it took me a lot of studying. I eventually did find a few other books or glimpses in some books of this might be why, this might be how. And I had to come back to God and say, okay, I am sorry. I turned my back on you. I do not understand this. I do not understand why this happened to my family. But isn't that all what faith is about? You don't understand. You have faith. It took a couple weeks and a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, a lot of self-discovery. And the one night then he appeared in the bedroom and was able to talk to me. He came right in, sat on the bed, rubbed my leg. I woke up and sat up and visited with him. Now at that time, I still had 2 of my 3 kids sleeping with me. My daughter had finally given up and went to her own bed, but the boys were still with me. And my youngest was in a full body cast, so his legs are like this. So we would wrap him in a sheet and put him in the middle of the bed, because if you've never slept with somebody that's got a cast on, it hurts. It rubs, that fiberglass rubs against you and almost gives you like slivers, or it did that many years ago. And my other son on the far side, he woke up and sat up and said, "Mom, who is that?" And I was so surprised, first of all, that my son woke up, and secondly, that he could see and hear his dad. And then he kind of disappeared. He kind of dissipated. And I thought, wait, we were having this conversation, And I got up out of bed and I ran into the hallway, and he wasn't there. And then I couldn't see him. But after that, I was able then to sit and meditate and talk to him. I have spent the last 25 years now doing a lot of research and asking a lot of questions of, what does vibration have to do with it? What does it mean, raise my vibration? I've learned how to raise my vibration, how to communicate even better, and how to teach others to do it. And I think that's one of the main goals that I have, is to help others connect with their loved ones so they don't actually need somebody like me. Because honestly, you don't. We all have that sixth sense. We all have that soul connection. We just need to learn how to tap into it. We're all born with it. It's just that sometimes when we get discouraged, we tamp it down and then it goes away. But many times for many people, it comes back towards the end of their life. I don't care if they're going to die at 50 or if they're going to die at 100. Weeks before they die, they'll start having some premonitions. They'll start maybe dreaming or seeing their loved ones that have already passed. And there's really good reasons for all that. And part of it is to help you transition. There has been so many changes in the metaphysical world since I was a child. It is so much more acceptable. People, their level of enlightenment has raised so much. What I think the future brings is more and more of that. I think people are a lot more open with discussing experiences with each other. They're more open about seeing signs. When I give my Hello from Heaven presentations, years and years ago, I would say, so how many people have had something like this happen? And I'll give an example of a sign from their loved ones. And, I get 5, 6 hands raised. Now when I ask it, everyone in the room, their hand will go up. It's so much more common, and people are more comfortable sharing it because they're not made to treat like, oh, you're cray-cray. They're treated like, oh yeah, I had something like that happen once. And people are a lot more interested in it. This year in particular of 2021 is the year of enlightenment. And I really see some changes coming, which I think are going to be really good for humanity. I really do.